would you do if you were driving down a lonely highway in the middle of nowhere and you were being followed by somebody that you're pretty sure is crazy? Would you run? Would you confront them? Would you try to contact the police? That's a situation that we're looking at today. This story is not really folklore and it's not really supernatural, but there is something that happens at the end that makes the person who experienced this wonder, was there something more going on here? So make sure you stick around till the end. A man that we'll call John had a job that required him to occasionally travel. He worked in a small office for a company, and the company basically had two sites, one of which was where he lived, and then another site was 2 states over, which was about a 9-hour drive between the two sites. So occasionally John would have to take the company truck, which was basically just a big U-Haul style box truck, pick up some equipment from site A, transport it to site B, and then drive the company truck back to his home site. On this one particular week, John was supposed to get on the road early in the morning, but he got a call from his boss telling him that the equipment was not going to be at site A, his home site, until about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He gave him an option. He said, you can wait until the morning if you don't want to drive through the night, or you can pick up the equipment, get on the road by 6, and drive through the night to site B. And John thought about it, but he didn't really want to waste his whole weekend because it's 9 hours there, 9 hours back. If he waited until Saturday to go, that's pretty much his whole weekend shot. But if he leaves Friday evening, he can get to the site early in the morning. It was open 24 hours, so maybe like 3 in the morning, sleep for a few hours, and then drive back, and then at least he'll have Sunday to himself. So he decides that he's going to drive through the night, drop off the equipment, and then pretty much drive right back after sleeping for a couple of hours. So he gets on the road about 6 p.m. and he's doing the math and he says, okay, well, if I stop only one time, I should get there around 3 in the morning. Maybe I'll just sleep from 3 a.m. to 6 or 7 and then I'll drive back. It would be a long trip, it would be very exhausting, but at least it would just get it done, get it out of the way. John didn't really like driving this big box truck on the interstate just because it was very difficult to see the cars around you when you're in this huge box truck that he's not used to being in. So generally what he would do is he would get off the interstate at his first opportunity and then take smaller highways all the way to site B. He had done this many times during the day, but he had never done it at night. But he figures, you know what, I've done this so many times. I know the roads really well. I don't think it'll be an issue. I know where all the big turns are. I already know where I'm going to stop. There's a gas station right at the halfway point. I'll stop there. It'll be no problem. And for the first half of the trip, it wasn't a problem. Everything went smoothly. Once he got off the interstate, there was very little traffic. And by the time he was approaching the halfway point, it was about 10:30 at night. So he sees the gas station coming up that he usually stops at. And as he's getting closer, he just gets kind of a sketchy vibe from it. He had been there many times during the day and never had an issue. But now it was at night. It didn't look like there were many cars in the parking lot. Something about it just made him feel a little bit creeped out. But he figures, you know what? It's well lit. I've been here before during the day and I've never had a problem. I'm sure it'll be fine. So he drives into the gas station. He fills up at the pump. And then he decides to go inside, run to the bathroom, get some coffee, that sort of thing, which he does, and kind of stretches his legs and gets ready for the second half of his long trip to Site B. So he pays for his coffee, and he's coming out of the gas station, and he looks over at the company truck, and he notices this big old beat-up pickup truck. And it is parked suspiciously close to the company truck. It's not really parked at the next pump, it's parked closer to the company truck. So he's saying, what is this? He looks a little bit closer and he sees that there's a man standing closer to the company truck than to this old beat up pickup truck. The man looks to be in his 50s, looks to John to be rather sketchy and unkempt and just had a little bit of a strange look in his eyes. And John kind of pauses for a minute and wonders, is this guy just going to ask me for money? Is he going to ask me to pay for gas? Is he going to try to rob me? what's going on with this guy, but he says, you know what, I better not show any fear. And besides, John liked to box, so he knew that if this older guy tries anything, there would be no problem. John would be able to defend himself, but he was still a little bit sketched out. So he decides, I'm just going to, whatever this guy tries to do, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to get in the truck and I'm going to go. So he's approaching the truck, trying not to make eye contact with this man. And as he's reaching for the door to the truck, this man says to him in a very low, monotone, kind of strange voice, "Have you had any mechanical problems tonight?" And John just says, nope. He gets in the truck, slams the door, turns it on, and he takes off. And he's thinking, what was that all about? Why was he asking me about mechanical problems? And in the back of his mind, he's wondering, I really hope that creepy guy didn't do anything to this truck. But the truck seemed to be running fine, so John didn't really think anything else of it. He continues on his way. Didn't seem to be any issues. John makes it about another hour. And John knows that he's approaching the part of the trip where there's this very long bridge. And the bridge is probably about a quarter of a mile long, and it's over this very deep gorge with a river that runs down at the bottom. And John always kind of hated this part of the drive because he didn't really like heights, but he said, you know what, it's nighttime, I won't even be able to see what's down at the bottom, so I'm not going to get too scared this time. As he's getting closer to the bridge, he's about a mile away, he's driving, everything is fine, and all of a sudden, all of the lights in the truck go out. The headlights go out, the lights on the dash go out, he even taps his brakes, brake lights are out as well. So mind you, it's the middle of the night. There's no street lights, there's very few other cars. It's very difficult to see. I don't know if you've ever been driving and just turn your lights off for a second, but it's very difficult to even see the road immediately in front of you. John's immediate reaction was not to feel fear, but it was to feel anger. At first, anger toward the company for making him drive in this truck that has all these problems, and obviously it had a bad electrical system that they should have fixed and they didn't fix it, and he's cursing and blaming the company. And then he remembers the old man at the gas station who asked him about mechanical problems, and he's saying, I knew it. I knew that creepy old man did something to the company truck. He must have done something. And now John's thinking, did this guy follow me? And he's just waiting until the lights go out and I pull over and he's going to come rob me or hurt me? So John is slowing down and he's thinking about what he should do. And he's saying, you know what? It's a full moon. I can kind of see. I know these roads. I think that I can navigate at least to get to the next town. The tricky part is going to be the bridge because there's no margin for error. If I make even a tiny mistake or a miscalculation, I am flying off that bridge, and that's going to be all she wrote for me. And John is doing his best, but he's just getting more and more frustrated by the situation and the fact that the truck isn't working. And he gets so frustrated that he balls up his fist and he punches the dashboard of the car as hard as he can. And somehow that must have fixed something, because as soon as he punches the dashboard of the truck, all of the lights suddenly switch back on. And John's kind of like looking at his fists like, wow, that actually worked. I did not think that was going to work. But regardless, the lights are back on. And now John is saying, okay, I know I'm going to have to stop. I'm not making it to Site B tonight. And he's trying to think back to previous trips and trying to think about where the next possible place to stop is going to be. And he knows that there is a small town, not even really a town, just kind of a little space off the highway that has a gas station and a motel and that kind of thing. And he knows there's one about 15 minutes up the road. So he's thinking, okay, I just got to make it 15 minutes. And he's, rubbing the dash of the car and saying, come on, baby, just make it another 15 minutes and we'll get to the next town. We'll stop in the small town/pit stop. Tomorrow we'll go the rest of the way. But we just need to make it there. So he is just hoping and praying that the lights don't go back off. And he's looking up in his rear view and he sees headlights behind him. But he's not really sure if that's a concern. He hadn't seen the headlights before, so he's feeling like if this guy had been following me, this creepy guy from the gas station, if he had been following me, I feel like I would have noticed by now. These headlights, I think, are new. I don't think they were there before, but he keeps an eye on them, and he's kind of wondering, because he's saying to himself, if that creepy guy did something to this truck, he probably was going to follow me, right? So he's looking at the headlights as he's driving along, and eventually he sees lights up in the distance of the gas station and the motel and these small buildings that are kind of part of this pit stop along the highway. His plan is to just pull into the motel and sleep in the truck in their parking lot, but he figures that he'll turn into the gas station and just top off his gas and get a little snack because he's probably going to go to sleep pretty soon. So he starts turning into the gas station, and he doesn't park at a pump. He parks kind of off to the side where there's room for his big company truck. And he's getting out of his truck and he's coming around to the other side, and he looks up and he looks over at the entrance to the gas station, and he sees that same old beat up pickup truck pulling into the gas station. At this point, it was 2 hours ago that he had that encounter with the old man at the gas station. The odds that this old man just happened to be going the same way as him and just happened to stop at the same gas station as him were pretty slim, and John knew that. He knew at this point, that old man followed me. And not only did he follow me, that old man did something to this truck because he wanted me to stop. And so John has stopped in his tracks, and he's just staring over to the entrance of the gas station, watching this truck. And the truck doesn't come up to the pumps, it doesn't come up to the parking spots, it just kind of stops over near the entrance to the gas station. And John knows that that old man in that car is staring at him the same way that he's staring at the old man. And he almost feels like he's in a western, just waiting for the first person to make a move. And then he sees the truck slowly start to come forward and head toward his direction. And John is not going to back down. He's standing exactly where he is. He's not moving until this old man leaves him alone. And just as the truck starts pulling forward, coming toward John, John sees another set of headlights pulling into the gas station. And he looks over at those headlights, and it's a police officer. And John is thinking, oh, thank God I don't have to deal with this confrontation. He starts waving at the police officer, trying to get his attention. And as soon as the old man in the truck sees this and sees what's going on, he just peels out of the gas station and takes off. And John never saw him again. And so the cop pulls up to John and asks him what's going on. And John doesn't tell him the whole situation with the creepy old man in the truck. He just kind of asks him for directions or something like that, just to give a reason as to why he was flagging down the officer. So John gets a few snacks, he gets back in his truck, he drives over across the street into the motel parking lot, and he just sleeps in his truck. And he was worried the whole night that this old man was going to come back, but fortunately he never did. And the next morning, John makes it the rest of the way to Site B. You know, he apologizes to the people there for not being able to make it over the night. And he tells them the whole story. He tells them about the creepy old man at the gas station. He tells them about the lights going off. He tells them about the officer who saved him from a potential confrontation with this old man. And the manager at Site B says, well, you know, we have a mechanic right down the street that we use all the time. Before you take this truck back to Site A, you should probably go get it checked out. So John does just that. He takes the truck over to the mechanic and sits in the waiting room until the mechanic comes back out and tells him what's going on. And an hour goes by, and eventually the mechanic comes out and kind of furrows his brow at John and says, you know, we looked at everything. You know, we looked at every little bit. We couldn't find a single thing wrong with that truck. From what we can tell, the electrical system is working perfectly fine. We couldn't find any evidence of a short or anything like that. I cannot give you a reason as to why all of the lights in the truck would turn out just like that, and then, strange enough, just turn right back on and not have any more issues. So, unfortunately, I can't tell you what it was. So John is wondering to himself after that, what exactly just happened? Was this the craziest coincidence of all? That this creepy old man at a gas station asked him if there were mechanical problems, just happened to follow him and the old man was innocent? Did the old man do something to his car that just somehow resolved itself? Or was there something even weirder going on